Hare Krishna. Welcome to all of you to Udupi Dham Yatra. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's our greatest fortune that today we are going to travel together to Udupi Kshetra. Very, very beautiful, very pleasant and very naturally enriched atmosphere at Udupi Kshetra. So, a brief introduction of the geographical location of this place. It is starting, this whole thing is called Parshurama Kshetra. It starts from Gokarna just after Goa and then it ends in till Kanyakumari. So I'll tell the full story to you, but to be precise with you is the whole land is called Parshuram Kshetra, and in between, at the mostly at the center of the place, in a linear land track, there is something called as Udupi Kshetra. Now, the story goes like this: that there was one Ruchika Muni who married Satyavati Devi, and both of them gave birth to the famous Jamadagni Rishi. And Jamadagni married with Renuka Devi, and he gave birth to the famous sixth incarnation of Vishnu, Lord Parshuram, Bhagavan Parshuram. And they all were staying very happily in the forest. Parshuram was the sixth incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and then he also had brothers and mother and father. All of them were living happily, living very austere, devotional life in the forest. And one day, the that time king of the whole world, Kartavirya Arjun, arrived there with his army. He had come for hunting, so he just happened to come across the ashram of Jamadagni Muni with all his sena, all his army, and he happened to have 1,000 arms. He was very famous, very beautiful, very handsome, very strong, and of course very proud. So he came and he expressed that he's very hungry with his all soldiers, and Swamiji told him, Jamadagni ji, please go and take bath in the river and come. Your food will be ready for you. And to the surprise of King Kartavirya Arjun, within, I think, few minutes till the time they went and came back, all his thousands of soldiers were fed unlimited number of items of food in a very quality, very tasty and unbelievable way. Jamadagni ji served all those thousands of army along with Kartavirya Arjun. And Kartavirya Arjun was very, very surprised. Said, what is the miracle? Within few moments, this Swamiji has served me such a big feast in the middle of the forest. From where he got the ingredients? What is the secret? How did he cook it so fast? So he asked. So Jamadagni Maharaj told him, Ki, I have a cow called Kamadhenu. She fulfills all the desire instantly. So I just requested her to provide unlimited amount of food, variety of items to all the thousands of soldiers along with you. So she produced it in seconds, and that's how I could serve you. So the king became, instead of becoming respectful, he became envious. He thought, I am the Chakravarti Samrat, so I must possess all the valuable things. How can a simple hermit, how can a simple sage in the forest have such a precious thing which I don't have, even I don't have. So he told Swamiji, please give me that cow. I will give you abundant wealth in replacement, but this valuable thing should be my possession. So Jamadagni refused. He said, I am not attached to the unlimited food. I never eat that food, but I need milk and ghee for my yajna and for my seva. So I cannot part with this cow with you. So the king got very angry. He said, what? How dare you say this in front of me, the Chakravarti Samrat? So he, by force, he snatched the cow and took it away. Now, all this while, when all this was happening, Parshuramji was in the forest serving his father by collecting some wood for his seva. When he came back, he came to know all the story that Parshuramji, when he heard the story, was very, very angry. How dare a Kshatriya king come and disrespect my father? So he took his Parshu and Dhanusha and went to Kartavirya Arjuna's kingdom and had a big war, and he defeated all the soldiers. He killed Kartavirya Arjun, got back the cow and gave back to his father. In this war, the various sons of Kartavirya Arjun, they fled out of fear to save their life, and somehow they were saved by that way. So they were also very revengeful. One fine day, they have seen the prowess of Parshuram, so they could not dare to come when Parshuram was there. So when they saw Parshuram was not there, he had gone out to the forest for some work, they again attacked the ashram. They killed Jamadagni Muni and snatched the cow and went away. Again, Parshuramji came back and realized from his brothers and from his wife that father was killed, and the cow was snatched again. So again he went with his Parshu and Vishnu Dhanusha, killed all the sons of Kartavirya Arjun, and again brought the cow back, and he brought his father back to life. And that time he again took his Parshu and he went all the way 21 times around the world, and he was very angry with the Kshatriya race. He thought this disobedience, proud, egoistic, and Uddand kings, I will destroy them. So he revolved around the earth 21 times with his Parshu and Vishnu Dhanusha, and he killed all the Kshatriyas who were impudent. Only three kinds of Kshatriyas were saved. One of them who was getting married, that means any Kshatriya, if they are in wedding with a woman during the attack of Parshuram, they would be spared. Those who are doing yagya, they would be spared. And that king who would be surrounded by women, he will be called as Nari Kavacha. Who has taken the Kavacha, he was surrounded by women, he will be saved. So only these three kinds of Kshatriyas were saved. Rest all were destroyed and their kingdoms were captured by Parshuramji. He made 7 lakes of blood, and he made those lakes of blood in Kurukshetra. They became finally a worshipable situation there, Tirtha. And then finally, all the land that he procured by killing all these Kshatriyas 21 times revolving around the earth, he donated that land among Brahmanas and Rishis and Munis. And he didn't want to stay in the area which he had donated to Brahmanas. So he came to this place called Gokarna, which is just below to the southern direction of Goa. He stood up on a small hillock. He picked up his Parshu and he threw it in southern direction, in south direction, all the way till Kanyakumari. He threw it and he claimed 100 kilometers wide and 1000 kilometers long land from the ocean Varun Dev. And then he called 10 rishis. One of them was Bharadwaj Muni, and he called them and he told them that all of you stay here and perform bhajan nicely. I also will perform my bhajan on the mountain, and you all will. I'll bless all of you that this place will be having abundant rains, abundant grains, abundant fruits, abundant flowers, abundant herbs, whatever you need for your bhajan to worship of the Lord, everything will be abundantly available. There will be no dearth of anything. And this the tract of land will be called as Parshuram Kshetra after my name. And please stay here happily, perform your bhajan, do your devotional service, be happy. Your generations will be very happy over here, and I will come when you will have difficulty. I will give mantra to you. You all have to come together, chant the mantra, and I will appear instantly on recitation of the mantra, and instantly I will solve your difficulty. With these words, Parshuramji went away to his meditation. The sadhus, the rishis, the munis, they lived there very happily for many, many years to come. There was no problem, no dearth of anything, no scarcity, everything was in abundance. And many years after, suddenly the sadhus, they thought, what about the mantra? We never tried the mantra, never we had a chance, and never we had an opportunity. But should we try the mantra? Let us see. They were eager. They were very anxious. They were very eager to know what will happen. So as per the rule, they all came together at one place in Kerala and they chanted the mantra together as per the rule. And instantly Parshuramji appeared there. He said, "Yes, what is the problem? Please tell me." Now they were so ashamed. They were so scared because they knew there was no problem. So they said, Maharaj, hey Lord, oh Lord, there is no problem. So he said, "Then why did you call me with this mantra?" He said, "We were just curious, innocently curious, my Lord. Please forgive us. Please don't get angry with us." But he was already angry. He cursed them that you will lose unity amongst yourself. Now, in today's day, if you get a curse of having no unity with your brothers and sisters, nobody cares because anyway they are disunited. So what is the question of having unity as a curse? Disunity as a curse. But in those days, sadhus and unity among sadhus was very, very precious and it was like a thunderbolt on them. So they fell at the feet of Lord Parshuram and they begged, "Please forgive us from this particular impudent activity, innocent curiosity activity, and relieve us from this curse." So looking at their sincerity, innocence, humility, Lord Parshuram melted in his heart. He said, "Okay, I'll give you a solution. In the forthcoming season of the harvest season, you establish Lord Vishnu on a throne, and for 10 continuous days, you offer Lord Vishnu all the grains, all the items made of variety of grains, all the fruits, all the flowers, all the beautiful natural things. Make big, big feasts and flower decorations and offer the Lord and distribute the food to all caste and creed without discrimination and have a big festival. And that festival is called as Onam, which is celebrated in Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and all the South Indian areas, and all the caste and creeds and religious people, everybody come together without discrimination, make food, offer the food, make prasadam and distribute the prasad to every single person, very generous heartedly to poor and rich equally. In this festival, on the ninth day, as a separate Leela, Mahabali appears on earth from Sutarloka to see his kingdom. Once more, he comes during the Diwali time in Bali Pratipata. So that matches with the Onam festival also. It's connected with Mahabali also and connected with 10 days festival also. So, anyways, this is how Parshuram Kshetra was created. This is how it was maintained by Lord Parshuram. And till today, there is never any dearth over there. There's never scarcity of rain, scarcity of grain or fruits. There's coconut, there is rice, there is bananas, and so many wonderful uh, uh, abundance and prosperity is there in this Parshuram Kshetra. And Udupi happens to be at the center of this Parshurama Kshetra. Now we go to the story of Udupi, where one more story is there, where Ravana one time went to Lord Shiva because someone had guided him that if you get Atmalinga of Lord Shiva, very special, and you establish that in Lanka, then you would be indefeatable. Nobody will be able to defeat you. So he had gone there, he did tapasya, he pleased Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva asked him, "What do you want?" Ravan said, "I want your Atmalinga." And the Atmalinga had to be given as a reward because he had satisfied with tapasya. So then what happened? Lord Shiva gave him one condition that you have to not fly in your Pushpaka Vimana, you have to walk carrying the linga in hand all the way from Kailash to Lanka, and you cannot keep this linga down anywhere. Wherever you will keep, it will be fixed over there, it will not move further from there. So Ravana was very powerful. He said, "No problem, it will be very easy for me." But then all the demigod got alerted. They were worried if Ravana is successful in putting this lingam into Lanka, then we'll all be destroyed. We'll have no existence. So they approached Lord Ganesha. And Lord Ganesha said, "I will do the needful. Don't worry. I will see that it doesn't reach Lanka." So at the place called Gokarna, where Parshuramji had stood up on a hillock and threw the Parshu, at the same place, when Ravan arrived, Lord Ganesha came there as a Brahmin boy and met him. And by his influence, Ravana got a urge to pass water, natural urge, and he couldn't control it very amazingly. So he said, "My dear sir, what can I do for you?" He said, "I'm having a urge to pass urine. So can you please hold this linga and I will just relieve myself and come. Please hold this for me." And he had no time to even discuss further. He said, "Don't keep it down. Only one condition." So Brahmin boy said, "I have one condition. I will call you 3 times. If you do not come within 3 times, I'll have to keep it down because I won't be able to hold it for a long time as I'm a small boy." "No, no, I'll come in fraction of a second. I'll come." So he went, and somehow whatever time he took to do his business, before that only, as a strategy, Lord Ganesha called him 3 times, and of course, in between 3 times, he never came back to as per the promise, and so he kept the lingam down there at the bank of the ocean. Ravan came back and he asked, "Where's the lingam?" He said, "See, I told you, I called you, I couldn't carry it for a long time. I called you 3 times, you never came, so I had to keep it down." So Ravan was very, very angry. But what to do? It was already been put on the ground. So he tried to uproot it from the ground and he couldn't do it. But what he could do was, he, because of his great power, when he was trying to uproot it, the 3 upper pieces of the Shivalingam, they were thrown in 3 directions. That means now there are 4 Shivalingams. One is the broken Mool Atmalingam, and the broken part into 3 pieces in 3 directions. So today also, we go to Gokarna, there's a Gokarneshwar Mahadev with the broken part of the lingam, and the broken part is broken into 3 pieces, and there are 3 more Lord Shivas in Gokarna area. That is the story of this place. Also happens to be in Parshuram Kshetra. Later on, Ram Bhoja, King Ram Bhoja, who is a devotee of Lord Parshuram, he became king of this Parshuram Kshetra, and he decided to do Ashwamedha Yagya. And Ashwamedha Yagya there's a need for plowing the land to perform, and the king has to plow the land himself. So the king was plowing the land, and while he was plowing the land, one snake was killed accidentally, and that snake happened to be a demon in the past life. So anyway, it was good that the snake was killed, but Lord Parshuram appeared and said, "Anyway, even though it was demon and it has to be killed, but it was killed by you, so you have to atone for the sin of killing a snake. So what should be done, my lord?" Lord Parshuram said, "At the place where Chandra Moleshwar is there, I'll tell the story to you. There you have to create a Raupya Pita, that means Rajata Pita, a silver pedestal. At the 4 corners of the pedestal, you have to install snakes and you have to worship them." The king did the same thing. He established the Raupya Pita, he established 4 snakes, and he bathed them with milk. And as per the instruction of King Lord Parshuram, he also had a golden balance of this particular lord. That means it's called as Suvarna Tula, balancing the lord with gold and distributing that gold in Brahmins and charitably. So he did that also. With this seva, he was pleased, and Lord Parshuram appeared on this particular silver pedestal as personality Padmanabha. And then later on, what happened? One Bharadwaj Gotra Brahmin was there. He was worshipping Lord Narayan to get a son. At that time, Adi Shesha Bhagavan appeared to this Bharadwaja Gotra Brahmin and said, "With your disciples and wife, go to Raupya Pita, take bath, worship Chandra Moleshwara, pour milk on the 4 snakes on Raupya Pita, and I will appear as Lingam there." So as Parshuram appeared there, and then Lord Shiva had conferred Dhanurvidya over Lord Parshuram. So then Parshuram was very happy. Maharudra, Lord Shiva, asked for a blessing that please appear as Lingam over here for my worship. So Lord Parshuram appeared on that Raupya Pita as Lingam finally. And That lingam is called as Ananteshwara or Anantasana or Ananta Padmanabha. Now, before this appeared, there was one location, one holy tirtha called Chandra Mauleshwar Mahadev. After that, Ananteshwar appeared. So, what is the story of Chandra Mauleshwar Mahadev? Daksha, King Daksha Prajapati, had cursed moon god for some offense, so that he'll get Raja Yakshma. That means he will lose his body day by day, which is modern day tuberculosis. So, with this curse, with reducing body strength and body size, Chandra Devata had come and took shelter of Lord Shiva here in this place. And Lord Shiva nursed moon god Chandra Devata, Somadev. And under the care of Lord Shiva, Lord Chandra recovered from the curse and could re-establish himself in his original place and service. So this Lord Shiva is called as Chandra Mauleshwara, who sheltered moon god and saved him from the wrath of the curse with full extent. So this particular Chandra Mauleshwar temple is the original temple. In front of that, exactly, Ananteshwara appeared, and we have to. That's why always we go there and first worship Chandra Mauleshwara, take his blessings, and then go to Ananteshwara. Now, what happened after Rama Bhoja? Kadamba became the king of Parshuram Kshetra. Then Vasu became king of Parshuram Kshetra. He married. He got a daughter called Sushila. Sushila got married with Hemangata, King Hemangata. And King Hemangat and Sushila, they got a son named Mayur Varma, who became later the king of Ropya Pita Bhumi Kshetra. That means the area which was having that Ropya Pita, Tauliya Pita or Rajata Pita, that was now governed by Mayur Varma. And very happily, nice king, very religious. One day Kashyapa Muni appeared in that place. But Kashyapa Muni said, I will not stay in this place because I don't see any good quality Brahmins in this place doing any good worship. So I will not like to stay in this place. The king got very upset. He said, oh, I will not lose the association of Kashyap Muni in this place. So he went to the place called Aichhatra, and it is nearby Udupi. And Aichhatra, he brought thousands of Brahmins and established them with house and all the services and all the maintenance in 32 villages around Udupi, around Rupya Pita. And then some of them stayed in Shivalli village. And these Shivalli village Brahmanas were now entitled to worship Ananta Ishvara, Chandramoleshwara, and later on also Udupi temple. And in this particular Shivalli Brahmins tradition, in the Vamsha, Madhyageha family, Narayan Bhatta was born, married with Vedavati, and he gave birth to Madhvacharya. By worshipping, by doing tapasya in the name of Ananteshwara for 12 years, by drinking this milk and walking all the way, coming to worship Ananteshwara, Madhvacharya was born. That is a different story we'll discuss separately. Now, we discussed about Chandra Mauleshwara, we discussed about Ananteshwara, which are the pivotal holy places in Udupi Kshetra. Now, why Udupi? Udupi means the king of stars, that is moon god. Because moon god did tapasya and worship in this place, this whole area is called Udupi, after moon god. Now, the third important structure or holy tirtha, the holy temple is Udupi Krishna Mata. And how Krishna Balram came there. That's a very interesting story. All of us know that Sri Krishna stayed in Vrindavan for around 11 years, 552 days. And then from there he left Vrindavan and went to Mathura. From there he went to Dwarka and did all the Leela. So in the course of time when he went to Mathura from Vrindavan, before that, because of the fear of Kamsa, Vasudev's, one of the wives of Vasudev, Rohini Devi, who later gave birth to Balramji, was there under the care and shelter of Nanda Maharaj. But when Krishna killed Kamsa and released Vasudev Devaki from the prison house, that time the fear had gone. So Rohini was then transported back to her husband's house near with Vasudev. So Rohini united back with Vasudev after a long time, after many years. And it was a strategy of Vasudev to protect Rohini from the wrath of Kamsa. So he had kept her with his friend Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. Now, because of this arrangement, Rohini had seen Krishna Balaram right from their birth, right from their infancy, and from their childhood. Every single Leela, every single pastime she had personally witnessed with Yashoda. And then she was so fortunate that when Krishna Balaram left Mathura, she also immediately after that went to Mathura. And then onwards, she saw Krishna Balram's youth and Krishna Balram's education, Krishna Balram's Upanayan Samskar, everything she saw. And then she saw in front of eyes Krishna Balram established Mathura kingdom, then Dwarka kingdom by reclaiming land from the ocean. Then Krishna got married to 16,108 wives. Every single thing, she was a lone witness. Nobody could claim that they saw everything together. So she was the only personality in Dwarka who had seen Krishna's birth, infancy, childhood, Krishna's killing Kamsa. Of course, she was not there when Kamsa was killed, but she was witness of all the pastimes. Now, in the course of time, the 16,108 wives of Krishna, when they were children, they were small children, they have been hearing about Krishna's childhood pastimes and Krishna's miraculous leelas all throughout. They were in love with him because of just hearing about the Leelas, like Rukmini and like other wives. But they married him at the grown up age and they only heard about his childhood. And they were very curious to know more about his childhood from the horse's mouth, from the person who has seen the Leelas. So now they had their mother in law, Rohini. So they would always request Rohini, Mother Rohini, please tell us Krishna's childhood pastimes. So Mother Rohini would say, no problem, I can tell you all the childhood pastimes of Vrindavan, Braj Bhumi. But I can see one difficulty in this. Mother, what is the difficulty? She said, I know if I tell you Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes, Krishna, first of all, will appear there instantly wherever there is description of Krishna's pastimes of Vrindavan. And then, as soon as he will hear and remember his Vrindavan Leelas, immediately he will call for his charioteer Daruka and say, Daruka, let's go right now to Vrindavan. And Krishna Balram will leave Mathura, will leave Dwarka and go back to Vrindavan. No one knows when they will come back again. So, my dear daughter in laws, would you like to hear the stories and lose your husband for unknown period of time? Or would you like to have your husband with you safely? And of course, they would choose the husband with them closely. But the desire would erupt again and again. Again and again, they would approach Rohini Mata and discuss this matter. Again and again, they would cancel the whole program of listening to Krishna's pastimes. But one day they thought, can it not be possible to hear the pastimes of Krishna Balram of childhood in Vrindavan and also not lose our husband from the association? So they only came up with the idea that what we will do is we'll go to a palace where all of us would gather. Mother Devaki also had seen Krishna only for a few moments after birth, and she could only barely feed breast milk to Krishna once, and then she never got association of Krishna's baby pastimes and baby leelas. So she also was equally hankering because she had seen Krishna Balram only grown up at almost 12 years of age. All childhood leelas were missed out by Devaki. So she also was eager. They said, we will call Devaki, Mother Devaki. We all will come to one palace. We'll close all the doors. Last door, we will call our Subhadra Devi, our sister-in-law, and we will request her to stand at the door, outside the door, and she will inform us as soon as she sees Krishna Balaram from far distance at the horizon. When she will see the glimpse of Krishna Balaram, she will inform us and she will knock the door and we will just all run away as if nothing had happened. So by that way we could get something to hear and maybe we'll repeat this situation many times so we can cover the whole childhood Leela of Krishna and we'll save ourselves by not losing our husband also. Now, all the arrangement was set and Subhadra Devi agreed to stand on the door outside And Rohini Devi agreed to sit and start telling the stories. Devaki was given asana, Rohini was given asana, all the queens sat down, and there began the narrations of Krishna's childhood pastime inside the palace, with Subhadra Devi at the door outside watching from distance whether Krishna Balram are coming or not. Now the queens were completely free of all anxiety because there was a good guard, trustworthy guard. And Rohini also started narrating. You can imagine what love Rohini had. She is the number two in the sequence of Vatsalya Ras. The best is Yashoda, and number two best is Rohini. Imagine she describing the childhood pastimes of Krishna Balaram. How wonderful it must have been, how sweet, how nectarian. So naturally, all the queens and Mother Devaki, they completely got engrossed. They didn't even think what must be happening outside. And my dear friends, you must be knowing outside, first Subhadra Devi collapsed and then Jagannath Baldev, Krishna Balram also came and they also went in ecstasy and they collapsed outside and they became Jagannath Baldev Subhadra. But that was not known to the king inside at all, the queens inside at all. They were completely oblivious what's happening outside. That is, of course, Jagannath Puri pastime, how Lord Jagannath appeared. We'll not go into that detail. But inside, as the Leelas were progressing and more progressing, more and more nectar was flowing, more and more ecstasy was coming, more and more vikaras were happening in the bodies of the queens. And suddenly, when the Leelas, the descriptions were at the peak, at that time, Sri Krishna and Balaram appeared in the middle of the queens and in front of Devaki and Rohini. And you can imagine, Devaki for the first time saw the baby forms of Krishna and Balaram, and rivers of milk from her breast flew. They just flowed like that, and she went to unconscious because she was in total ecstasy of Vatsalya. Her Vatsalya bhava for Krishna Balaram went into peak and she could not maintain her consciousness. She fell unconscious. And imagine Rukmini, who is supposed to be the epitome of all the queens of Krishna. She was Bhagyalakshmi's, the topmost queen of all the Bhagyalakshmis. For all Bhagyalakshmis, but she was the topmost Bhagyalakshmi, the principal Bhagyalakshmi. She was actually in Swakiya Madhurya Ras with Krishna in the conjugal mood. But even Rukmini was actually the emblem of Swakiya Madhurya. She developed Vatsalya, the motherly affection for Krishna Balaram. And very soon, after the few moments of darshan, heart-rending darshan, heart-overwhelming darshan, Krishna Balaram disappeared. How they appeared? They were almost naked. They were ornamented. Krishna had peacock feather, and Krishna Balaram had a churning rod and a rope in their hand. That beautiful darshan, and they disappeared. And then everybody dispersed, but Rukmini just couldn't control herself. She was so much in love with those two forms. At the same time, externally, realistically, practically, she was with Krishna as his wife, but in the heart of her heart, she had developed Vatsalya, motherly affection for Krishna Balaram. She called Vishwakarma and she carved two deities with describing in detail, and she produced two deities of Krishna Balaram. And till her end of Leela on earth in Dwarka, she worshipped those two deities in her Antapur, in her private chambers, while externally she was serving Krishna as his wife in Swakiya Ras. Now, when time came that Krishna disappeared, when the wives disappeared, Vajranath took these deities and he put them in Gopi Talao, and they were covered by Gopi Chandana. And by the power, desire and the inconceivable desire of the Lord, arrangement of the Lord, those two logs of Chandana wrapping the Krishna Balaram deities, they came at the ocean of Dwarka. Later, the Dwarka was covered by the ocean. As it was claimed before, the ocean again claimed the land and Dwarka was covered by the ocean, and the replica of Dwarka was made as a memorial at the bank of the ocean. The real Dwarka is under ocean. And these two logs, they appeared at the bank of the ocean. Now Dwapar Yuga ended and 12th century began in Kali Yuga. Madhvacharya had appeared over here in Udupi Kshetra, in Pajaka Kshetra, and he had already become a great sadhu. At the age of 8, he had taken sannyas and he had many disciples. So one time, by the inspiration, intuition, he went to the beach called Malpe Beach, and he was standing there with his disciples chanting the mantras of the Lord. And one businessman who started from Dwarka, putting all his material to sell and everything, he finally wanted to balance his ship. So he liked those two logs of Gopi Chandana. So he got them picked up and put at the two ends of the boat to balance the boat while sailing. And he started sailing. And when he reached Udupi Ocean, he got lost in a storm. And the storm was so great that he couldn't control. He was helpless. And Madhvacharya saw the boat revolving in the ocean uncontrollably. So he removed his Uttariya Vastra, upper cloth, and waved in such a way, being the son of Vayudev, being so powerful, younger brother of Bhima and Hanuman. He could stop the storm. So basically, storm is wind based. Huh? Water is secondary part. The wind is the highest part. So he controlled the wind. And then by the power of his upper cloth, he pulled the boat at the bank of the ocean. So the owner of the boat, the businessman, fell at the feet of Madhvacharya and said, because of you, myself, my life, my people's lives, and my property in the boat, everything is saved. So please take whatever you want. It's all yours. So already he had this divine intuition. So he said, I'm a sannyasi, I'm a renunciant, I don't want anything material. I only want those two logs of Gopi Chandana. Said, yes, please take. So he sent 35 of his disciples to bring those two logs, but 35 of them could not lift even one. So then being the all strong personality, the younger brother of Hanumanji and Bhima, Madhvacharya went alone and lifted by one hand, one log, another by hand, another log, and started walking together alone back towards Udupi. He was not yet gone little distance. At the bank only he was there, the ocean. One of the log very mysteriously fell from his hand and it broke open into two. And Lord Balram appeared. Bolo Balramji Bhagwan ki jai. And Balram appeared. And then he spoke to Madhvacharya, please establish me here only at the bank of the ocean called in the village called Vadabandi. So he was called as Vadabandeshwar. Madhvacharya established him, Pratisthapana, had a big festival, established the puja, and then he proceeded further with the remaining log. And he went to Udupi, in the middle of the Udupi, and he put that log in his Madhva Sarovar, his own Sarovar, own water pond. And then at that water pond, the Chandan melted and Sri Krishna's divine Murti emerged. So that beautiful childhood form of Krishna was established by Madhvacharya in Udupi. And today what we have, Udupi Krishna Mata, that is a place, very elaborate, big place where that Krishna was established by Madhvacharya, very beautifully, ceremoniously and gorgeously, and worship began. In the course of time, Madhvacharya understood that I will go one day. By the time he had made many disciples, so he chose 8 principal sannyasi disciples of his, and he divided the seva of Udupi Krishna into 8 parts of 2 years each, which is called as Paryaya. And that Paryaya, he also awarded some special deities to these 8 sannyasi disciples of his. For example, Vithala deities. For example, Ram, Lakshman, and Sita deities. For example, Panduranga deities. For example, Narasimha deities. Like that, he 8 different deities he awarded to all these 8 disciples and established their 8 centers of preaching called matas into 8 different areas, which is called as Kaniyura Mata, Saude Mata, Puttige Mata, Adamar Mata, Pejavara Mata, Palimar Mata, Krishnapur Mata, and Shirur Mata. In 8 different directions, different places, he established 8 matas, and the awarded deities were worshipped by these sannyasis in their own matas. But once after 14 years, for 2 years, the particular sannyasi from particular matha will be coming to Udupi with his deities and serve Udupi Krishna along with his own deities for 2 years. And then there will be a big ceremony of transfer of the seva from one to another matha, and the other Swami will come from his mat with his deities, and the previous Swami will go with his deities back to his mat and then preach for 14 years in his place the way we want. And other will come and worship. Now, what all these Swamis did, they built ashrams of their matas in and around the territory of Udupi Krishna. So these ashrams are there in the peripheral circumference of the Krishna Udupi Mat. Why? Because they will also have their establishment, their parties, their devotees will come and stay in that big temple, and the main pujaris and sannyasi will go in the main Krishna temple, bring his deity, and there's a place called Sarvagya Pita. There's a separate temple room inside the main temple where the particular Swamiji having seva, paryaya, will put his deities on that altar and worship them in between for few hours of the seva of Udupi Krishna. And when they will serve in the paryaya from 3 a.m. in the morning, they will take bath in Madhva Sarovar and start their worship till 8:30 in the evening continuously without any break. Only 10 minutes break for lunch, 10 minutes for breakfast, and 10 minutes for whatever little dinner they will eat. In between, they have to go and worship their own deities also for some time. And in between, when they'll get 15 minutes or 10 minutes, 2 times, they will also go and sit on the Saravagya Pita, that is the asana of Madhvacharya. And then they will bless the people with mantrakshata. They'll give some holy rice grains as ashirvada, as a blessing, and distribute prasadam, connect with people, speak to them, give them some upadesha, like that. That's for Sarvagya Madhva Pita. Now, if we see the temple inside, we will discuss it fully. At the entrance of the temple, there is something called as Chennakeshava Murti. That is Krishna's Murti named as Chennakeshava at the entrance of the main temple. Then there is something called as Tirtha Mandapa. In front of the main deity room is a small silver mandapa, canopy, where in the evening at 7:30 the Lord will come in the Utsav Murti form and he will be done Chamar Seva with golden chamaras. And then inside there is something called a Chandrashala, where there's a noise platform in front of deities. All the sadhus will sit there regularly. The Vidyarthis, the students of Vedic knowledge, Vedic school there, the Gurukula, they'll all come, recite various shlokas and do prayers, and then sadhus will come, they'll recite prayers. That is called Chandrashala. Then inside there is something called as Mukhya Prana and Garuda Dev Murti, which was brought by one Swamiji called Vajiraj Swami, who is the descendant of Madhvacharya. He brought Mukhya Prana and Garuda from Ayodhya, and also Madhva Murti also he brought, and he established them in the temple itself. And today also, along with the main deity worship of Udupi Krishna, Mukhya Prana Hanuman and Garuda Murti is established and he is worshipped every single day. Now inside, there is something called as Garbhagudi or Garbhagriha. There are 2 rooms. One is for Swamiji for his own Tarpana, and another is for the Lord where he stands. Actually, the Lord is there in one of the rooms of Garbhagriha. There's something called as Chauki, where the big hall outside for moving around. There's some place called Vasanta Mahala. Vasanta Mahal is a place where the pravachans and the big programs and the festivals take place. Then there is Goshala inside the temple complex. There is a Bhajan Shala, Bhojan Shala also. Now, another Mukhya Prana Hanumana Murti is there in the Bhojan Shala. And the very amazing thing about this Bhojan Shala is that continuously prasadam distribution goes on all 7 days of the week. But on Saturdays, they serve prasadam on the bare floor made out of marble. Other days, they will serve the prasadam on the banana leaf. But on Saturday, whole day, they will serve the prasadam on marble floor. And I have taken prasadam there. It's extremely wonderful arrangement, very highly clean, and nobody gets any problem. That's a custom in that place. There's something called as Akshaya Patra. Madhvacharya in his lifetime, he created Akshaya Patra, which happens to be a plate and a spoon, which denotes that as long as Akshaya Patra is there, Madhvacharya's Udupi Krishna temple will never have any dearth of any wealth or any food. It will continuously keep serving the food. There will be no dearth and scarcity. That's the benediction. Then there's something called as Subramanyam Gudi. This Vadiraj Swami is a descendant of Madhvacharya. He had brought great treasure from Himalayas and buried under the ground and established a snake, Subramanya, over it to guard the wealth. And in the mood that whenever there will be any scarcity or drought, at that time this can be dug out and the temple service can be managed. So inside the temple complex, we'll find Subramanya Gudi also, and the whole story is diorama put in the form of diorama there, by which you can find out exactly how this treasure came from Himalayas to that place. Then there is something called as Vrindavan. Vrindavan means the Samadhi Mandiras of all the Acharyas, right from Madhvacharya. All Samadhi Mandirs are there. That's called Vrindavan in South India. Then Udupi Krishna appeared in year 1285. After 4,339 years of Kali Yuga, Udupi Krishna appeared in 13th century at the year 1285 in Udupi area. Also, there is a Sarovar called as Madhva Sarovar. We will discuss in detail about Madhvacharya in another session, but to describe this particular location in as a complex of Udupi temple, there's a water pond, and Madhvacharya was actually initiated by Swami Achyuta Preksha, who as a guru was very attached to his disciple Madhvacharya. He's called as Vasudev that time, also called as Sarva Purna Prajna. Many names were there for many dikshas, one after another. So Vasudev desired to go to Ganga to take bath. So he started for north with permission from his guru Achyut Preksha. But Achyut Preksha soon realized that he is very attached to his disciple and he cannot bear the separation. He has given the permission, but he has come to understanding that he cannot bear the separation from his disciple. So he was already in great pain. So he prayed to Mother Ganga to appear in Udupi itself. He prayed to Ganga intensely, and Mother Ganga, just outside the temple, appeared in the form of big land, a big pond, and she flooded the whole pond in a great speed. And when Achyuta Preksha saw that miracle, as a response to his prayer, he called for Vasudev with some disciples. They found him on the road, on the way. They brought him back. Yes, you want to take bath in Ganga? Mother Ganga appeared right in Udupi, just next to the temple. So he came back and he took bath in that pond, which is called as Madhva Sarovar. That is a miracle, and that still exists there. Now, what is there in that particular pond? There is a deity of river Bhagirathi Devi sitting on a crocodile in the southwest corner of the pond. Centrally there's a canopy, and there's a bridge from the borders, the banks of the ocean, banks of the water pond, right in the middle of the water, and the worship goes on there. Beautiful mandap is there in the center. Then there is just outside that, there's something called as Kattige Ratha. Kattige Ratha means the chariot-like form, but which is made of wood, which is used for cooking for the whole year. So all the wood and wood logs are very artistically arranged in the form of a chariot rising in the sky, and daily they will pull out wood logs from that and use it in the kitchen to cook the prasadam for the Lord. Then you will come across a place called Kanakena Kindi. This Kanakena Kindi means, in Sanskrit, means the window of Kanakadas, Saint Kanakadas. The story is that previously, when the deity was established by Madhvacharya, inside it was having an entrance, and right in the entrance of Garbhagruha, the Lord was established in a way that he would face the entrance. So Kanakadas was a Shudra by birth, not very high class Brahmin, but he was a very famous devotee, very deep devotee. But the Brahmins refused him to come inside the temple to take darshan because he was not a Brahmin. So he was very sorry. He felt very bad. He went near the window side, and the Lord was standing at the angle of 90 degrees to the window, and Lord's face was somewhere else. So he went near the window and stood there and started chanting great bhajans with crying tears of love and separation. And he sang for a long time. Lunchtime came up. The pujaris came up in the temple. They actually closed the temple room, offered the bhoga to the Lord, and closed the curtain. But in the lunchtime, the Lord turned 90 degrees, facing the window where Kanakdas was standing and praying, and he gave darshan to Kanakdas, right, standing there. Today also the Lord is not facing the gate of the Garbhagruha. The Lord is facing the window 90 degrees to the original position. Now there are two windows. One is from the outside road where Kanakadas is still standing there with his veena in the hand and looking to the window. And when you see through the window, you come across another window which is called Navagraha Kindi. Kindi means window. So it represents the Navagrahas. There are nine holes, nine square holes, and in through each hole you see the Lord. That's a custom. And then inside the Lord is there now facing the window because he turned in 90 degrees over there. These are all the inside structures. Now let's see whether we have missed out anything. So all the inside things we have seen, and now we'll go to the main temple inside. Now the Lord is about 3 feet in height. It is they said that Vishwakarma had carved the deities in the Shaligram Shila, so it is very effulgently shining black color, and the Lord is having very innocent face, very attractive child, beautiful child face, having a rod of churning in his hand with a rope in other hand, and standing very innocently there. And the whole seva is in the mood of vatsalya, motherly and parental affection. Every morning at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, they will wake the Lord up and they will remove Nirmalya. And what they'll do is Nirmalya Visarjan Puja, it's the first puja. As I told you, from 3 a.m. in the morning, after taking their own bath, the Swamiji, who is in charge of the Paryaya, 2 years of Seva, they are so busy till 8:30 in the night continuously. So first it begins with Nirmalya Visarjan Puja, then Ushakkala Puja, then I told you about Akshay Patra Puja, then there is Go Puja, then there is Panchamruta Abhishek Puja, then there is Udvartan Puja, then there is Kalash Puja, gold Kalash is there, that is worship. Then there is Tirtha Puja, then there is Alankara Puja, and then there is temple is closed for half an hour, around 7 to 7:30. Why? Because Sanakadi Kumaras and the demigods come to worship the Lord in that half an hour. So everything is closed, temple is closed, darshan is closed, all the darshanarthas are sent out of the temple, and in the 30 minutes, the four Kumaras and demigods worship Udupi Krishna. And after that, there is a public Sringar Arti. That is after that, and then there is Maha Puja, and then there is Darshan Rajabhoga Puja. After that, temple is closed in between, and again it opens in the evening. And evening, the main puja is Chamar Seva. Very ceremoniously, miraculously, the Lord is worshipped with golden chamaras, but in two hands, two chamaras. And the main Swamiji will do Chamar Seva for a long time with the Utsav Murti coming out of the main temple in that chowki, in that small area where the Lord is doing Chamar Seva. After that, there is a private Ratri Puja. There is a Jhulan Puja. That means the Lord will be put in the cradle. The Utsav Murti will be put in the cradle, and beautiful lullaby will be sung while the cradle will be swung by the pujaris. And then after the Shayana Puja, Ekanta Seva, the Lord will be put to rest at around 8:30 in the evening. Now in the morning when 5 o'clock the whole thing begins, you and me, everybody can go in the temple without any upper cloth, putting the cloth on the shoulder. All the men can go inside, all the women can go with full clothing, and they can physically see with their own eyes the Lord being undressed, Lord being in Abhishek. They will pour milk, they will pour dahi, they will pour the yogurt, they will pour clarified butter, there is ghee, they will pour elaichi bananas, they will pour khadi shakkar, hot water with fumes coming out of his body, then they'll mop the body of the Lord. All this can be seen, but you cannot stand there near the 9 holes, Navagraha Kindi for a long time because a lot of queue is there. They'll push you out. So what people do? They'll go again and again and again and again. They'll keep going so that they can get maximum of darshan. The darshan of the Abhisheka is also displayed on television, CCTV. But still, no one feels satisfied to see the Lord on CCTV. They will like to see him personally again and again and again. All the Shringar also can be seen personally. And the Lord is very, very, very mischievous and very, very innocent personality. What is happening in Udupi Krishna? They will get an inspiration like Mother Yashoda. And the Lord will tell Mother Yashoda, today I want to dress up as Vaman Dev. Today I want to dress up like Narsimha Dev. Today I want to dress up like Matsya. Today I want to dress up like Kurma. Today I want to tell Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So what will happen? There is a golden rath where Arjuna is standing. Krishna is sitting in the chariot in the golden rath. There are silver horses which Krishna is holding the reins of. And when Shringadarshan will open, you will find in the same Garbhagruha, there is a chariot and Krishna is that day telling Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. But you should watch very carefully. There's a small lump of butter on his lips that they put. Because you know na, how the children are playing in drama. That time they keep eating wafers in between, keep having fruits in between, keep having biscuit in between, keep having toffees in between, although they are acting in the drama. So they're children. So like that, Krishna has become Gita telling Arjuna, Gita telling Krishna, Partha Sarathi. But he's still baby Krishna would be. So he will keep eating. So he has to lick that butter which is put over his upper lip. In all darshans, you will find that. On every Friday, the Lord will become Devi. He will become either Saraswati or he will become like Lakshmi, Dhanalakshmi, Gajalakshmi. Someday he will become Mahakali. But every Friday, he will take form of one Devi. Fixed up. Very, very beautiful. And every Sunday, he will dress up in Vajra Kavacha. One of the Swamijis, he just made a sankalpa that in one of his Paryaya Seva, he made the Vajra Mukuta for the Lord. The Mukuta is studded with diamonds, only diamonds. And another Seva of his, he made Vajra Kavacha, the whole body dress of the Lord, studded with diamonds. And now, because of that, every Sunday, Vajra Kavacha darshan is there. Vajra Kavacha means the whole dress from top to toe is of diamonds. And as per festivals, the Lord will have various manorathas of Makanchor Krishna, of queens of Krishna, of Rukmini waiting for Krishna, of gopis, of Krishna becoming Shama Gopi. All those variety of darshan as per festival are depicted there as manoraths. In the mood of Yashoda, dressing her son with love and affection to fulfill his desires to have those various forms. And mind you, every single ornament, either it is silver, gold, or diamond, or emerald, or ruby, or all kinds of jewels, original jewels. And there are storehouses after storehouses of storehouses filled with this variety of paraphernalia, the rathas, and the golden kavachas for the rod and for the body of the Lord, every single thing. At the feet of the Lord is standing Panduranga. At the feet of the Lord there is Vyasadeva Murti also. At the foot of the Lord there is Chennai Krishna Murti also. So we can understand that Udupi Krishna is a very, very special Krishna. And there the whole bhav is Vatsalya. And the Lord is always standing there and serving the devotees by giving them very, very Adbhut darshan. So we can see that Udupi Krishna darshan is very, very special. It is not something ordinary. We'll have to go and witness. When we go in the morning, you can see that Udupi Krishna, the small baby with small eyes, nice tilak with diamond, it is put on his body, and it appears that he has just woken up from sleep. He just had his butter in the morning. Then he is being bathed in front of all people as a small child is bathed in front of everybody. So ceremoniously. And then the amazing thing is in the night when you go for Shayan Arti, for Chamar Seva, you can see that the Lord is now tired of giving darshan whole day. Now he's sleepy. He's about to go to sleep and nice lullabies are sung. And the Arati ceremonies are so elaborate. You cannot imagine. There are so many Artis. and there are such good coordination. The main Swamiji is doing main puja. He's the central personality of doing all the puja. And there are so many brahmachari assistants right inside the Garbhagruha. And they are handing over one arti, second arti, third arti, with few wicks, with hundreds of wicks, with the tortoise wicks, with this wick, with that wick. And there are all artis are done in such sequentially, like a automated machine, it happens. You just go on watching and you're amazed. For example, they do coconut abhishek. They do also Panchamrita Abhishek, and they also do coconut Abhishek. And the coconuts are maybe 51, for example. They're all broken, and one person throws it. The main Pujari Sannyasi catches it, puts it on the Lord, throws it to another one. He puts it outside. Like that, all the 51s are like an automated machine. They will be thrown, caught, Abhishek, other person, and then somebody is collecting the water of Charanamrita. Then at one time you'll get Panchamrita Charanamrita. At one time you'll get coconut water Panchamrita. You'll get Chandan. And every time elaborate mantras are chanted. Tulsi leaves are offered to the Lord with every mantra. Then Chandan is offered. Then Tulsi is offered. And amazing worship is done. It is impossible for us to study what they do in such an elaborate way. There's so many tulsis, millions of tulsi leaves are brought in every day. There are millions of wicks soaked in ghee, prepared every day of variety of types of artis, and they are just transported from one after other. One arti gets over, all the wicks are collected, brought outside, everybody takes the arati down. Amazing, amazing, and amazing. So, whatever I'm describing, you all have to go and see exactly how wonderful is Udupi Krishna, how sweet is he, and how you cannot take your eyes off him. His eyes are so captivating, so arresting that the witnesser, the darshanarthi, can never feel satisfied from 5 o'clock in the morning till 8:30 in the evening. If he sees hundreds of darshans, still he is not satisfied. He will come next morning at 5 o'clock again. So that's a very, very beautiful gift of Madhvacharya to all of us. Due to his devotional fervor, due to Lord's desire, the Lord traveled all the way from Dwapar Yuga Leela to all the way to Kali Yuga Leela in Udupi, established himself in Udupi, and gave pleasure to all the devotees. It's so wonderful. And last thing I want to explain to you, the glory of Udupi Krishna is every day in the form of his Utsav Murti, he will go out on Rath Yatra. Every single day, every single evening at 7:30, 8 o'clock, he will go have a one nice round in a place called Suttu. Suttu means circle. Now, one circle he will take, and that's the market in front of Udupi temple. Elephant will be in the front, and the main Swamiji will be out, cordoned by his disciples. He will do all the worship. He'll begin the chariot. He'll walk on the chariot in front. The elephant will walk. Then they'll offer lamps on the road. Then they again move ahead. Again offer lamps on the road. Again arti on the road. Each matha, there are 8 mathas in the circle, which they have their own centers. From each matha, one arti will come out, and they will offer one arti, and they'll complete the circle, and the Lord will be taken inside Utsav Murti by the serving Acharya, by walking inside in the cordon. And what kind of rathas? One is a small ratha. Second is a golden palanquin, holding by shoulder. Third is Garud Ratha. There is a eagle Ratha. Fourth is the silver Ratha, actual silver Ratha, which is about 20 feet high in the sky. Solid silver. Then there is golden Ratha, same size, 20 feet tall, solid golden Ratha with big, big wheels. And last and biggest one is Brahmotsav Ratha. That's the biggest chariot. And how it happens? You and me, any of us can do Manorath. Today I want to do the silver chariot yatra for the Lord. Or today I want to do golden chariot ratha for the Lord. So that day in our name, the Lord will come out and he'll have a round, and there'll be very nice South Indian music of Shehnai and the Ghatam, and beautiful songs and shlokas being chanted by Sanskrit, by the Vidyarthis from Gurukula. Very, very grand, indescribable ceremony of everyday Rath Yatra. And in Diwali, there is a ceremony called Lakshadvipa. 100,000 ghee lamps will be lit inside the temple in a fixed location. That's a grand ceremony. So like that, Udupi Sri Krishna is a very, very wonderful. Heart is just melting in eagerness to go there. In this time, we cannot go there, but still we can mentally visualize all these beautiful places and meditate on them and take darshan of Udupi Krishna every single day and just capture him in our heart and make our life successful. Please say, Udupi Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
RG Media YouTube channel. Like, share, subscribe.